Hey everyone, it's Gloria Hester here, and I'm here with Sam Powell. We've been having a great day recording and creating some really good content for you guys. And thank you for sharing this if you enjoy it. And Marty Murdoch's here over in the swing off of the frame. I'm here with Sam, and our friend Pam Flynn is here today too. And I was just asking Sam, one of the questions, I asked some people to submit some questions on behalf of their horses. And one of the questions that I received was that a woman has a mare, and that mare's mother was blind. And so the way this horse would have been brought up was very, very different than a way a normal horse would be, because her mom was blind. So she seems to be a lot more independent, almost more like of a watch horse, what we call a watch horse. So I was asking Sam what he thought about that, and he said, I'd be happy to give my thoughts on that and my opinion. So,
well, I think there's so much about animals that we're too dumb to ever understand. You take two different types of animals. I've got videos of dogs and cats that are just like this. And I think there's certain things that nature has instilled in animals that we don't appreciate. I think the human has it. We're just too overwhelmed with everything else to appreciate it.
I'd say it's been trained out of it. Yeah. Trained out of some.
No,
most. Not all.
I knew a guy out in Oklahoma had a cow that was blind, and there was another cow in there with her, but the blind cow would walk and follow the other cow around. You know, they knew, and you can't explain it. You know, that's something that's way over my head. And but I think that humans, everybody says, well, animals are just more special. And they're not. They are special, but I think nature or God or however you want to put this, put us all in here together. And we've got all the makeup, but we've got so overwhelmed with everything else going on around us, we don't cultivate some of our awareness. It's taken me a lot of years to really understand what other people have been trying to teach me and what the horses have been trying to teach me for years. And even when I started doing a lot of colt starting things, and Ray Hunt was on top of the world at that time when I first started doing the colt starting thing, way back in the 60s. And the first clinic I did, I was thinking, I don't know what Ray would do here. I wonder what Ray would do. Biggest mistake I ever made, not that Ray would ever do anything wrong, but I was missing everything the horse was trying to tell me, wondering about what Ray would do. And when I finally settled down and started doing what the horse needed, we got along pretty good. I wished I still had the video of that colt starting thing. It was the first one I ever did. But I think we just get so caught up in everything else, trying to look right, do right, talk right, that we forget some of the importance there. And like Grandma said, the humans have lost their awareness. And I think that we have so many wrecks, you know, because people aren't aware of everything around them. They're focused on the car right in front of them, not the one right behind them. And I think with the horses, if people would learn, I was telling you, for 25 years out there on that ranch with 400 brood mares and 250, 300 colts, 350 colts a year, and watching that relationship between that mare and that baby just fascinated me. I love to sit out there and watch them. And even watching the mares. And so I said, you know, you drove right by that pasture of mares and they're standing there at the trough. You didn't feed them. I said, nope. I want them to go off. I want them to come in when I go out there and blow the horn on the feed truck. I said, why? And I said, I want to watch them move. I want to watch them coming across that pasture. Is that mare a little bit off? You know, and I was down at the raining fraternity one time, and sitting up there at the top with Bob Loomis, and you could see the running slides, you know, we're sitting there watching the horses going away. And Bob was talking about it. He said, you know, there's not a single horse in the fraternity finals that's 100% sound. When we watched, maybe a hip was kicked over a little bit too far one way, or a tail hanging off to one side, or some. After a while, you get to noticing those little things that are causing maybe a problem, you know, half a point off on the score or whatever. But he didn't think any horse in the 25 were in the finals was 100% sound. And Yeah, I got to watch them. You see, you wonder maybe a little bit more weight on one hind foot than they're putting on the other hind foot. Just little bitty things, you know. I was in Aubrey, Texas, at a vet's one time. The guy had a horse in there that was off on the right rear. And John McCarroll's a horse vet, you know. But they had been injecting this mare in the hocks and in the fetlock and everything. And she's still off on the right rear. And couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. Anyway, I was standing there talking to another guy, and they led this mare past me down the hallway, and it's concrete. And I got to watching her walk, and I said, "Hey, Doc," I said, "tell me something." He said, "What?" I said, "You working on the right rear." I said, "This mare is off in the left front." He said, "No, she's not." So we led her back and forth across things. "She's not off on the left front." And I said, "Yes, she is. Watch her close. She's hitting toe first on the left front instead of heel toe. She's hitting toe heel." Well, I don't know about you guys, but I've had it. You know, hyperextend your knee backwards. Makes you want to just. But if you look at the horse, anytime a horse hits toe first, the pastern and the phalanx bones go back. So they're a momentarily pain. Well, if this horse has this momentarily pain on the left front, it's going to stick the right hind in the ground to take the weight off the left front, right? Carol watched her for a little bit. Had the horseshoer come in there and redo the horse where the mare was hitting heel, toe. Never had a bit of problem with the right rear. But it was that one little thing of that instant pain that she was compensating with the other hind foot. And people don't realize your horses are a diagonal animal. Never on all 4 feet at the same time. So it's diagonal. Pain is diagonal. They hurt their neck in the left front or left cervical, they get sore in the right hip. You know, so excuse me, everything on them is diagonal. People, if they would understand that, it's like if I'm sitting on a horse and I want it to back up, and most of the time you're, curb bit, snaffle, and halter, two-handed. The horse is going to stand with the front feet this way. They're not going to stand square on the two front because they're standing diagonal, right? So that's telling me this foot here has the weight on it. This foot doesn't. So I pick up my left rein, that foot's going to come back. And now we're opposite, so I can pick up the other rein and move this foot back. So I can sit there and do this and back a horse up without doing this deal. And if I work at it, and I've had to do this, if I pick up this left rein, that left front foot comes back. The right hind foot's going to go back. So at the same time, I pick up this rein, I'm going to bump with my right leg. Then I'm going to pick up this rein and bump with my left leg. And it's not going to take very many times. I can use my leg and move the back feet. If I move the back feet, the front feet will follow. I don't even have to get in their face. And it's knowing, Jack Brainerd, bless him, was an expert at knowing where the feet were and how to, and I've knew Jack for 50-some years, I guess. And we always talked about the feet. Not only knowing where they are, but how to move them where you want. And he'd have me ride a lot of horses at some of the clinics when I was helping him. And you see, I want Sam to ride along in a circle, and I want him to move the left front foot out one step. So you're riding along. People say, "How did he do that? How did he do that?" You actually do it again. Move the left front foot out a step. And what they have to understand is when that horse steps, when his heel comes off the ground, I can pick that rein up and he'll move his foot. But if his toe comes off the ground, then his foot's committed to go forward. So you've got about this much to work with to move that foot one way or the other. And Jack was such an expert at it and feeling. He rode Old Rooster, I don't know how many times at different clinics. Every time he was out here doing a clinic, he'd say, "Can I ride Old Rooster?" can I ride over?
He was a great horse.
Yeah, it's an honor to have Jack Branner ride Rooster.
Yeah.
So
And it
I
might
take
be
it over.
an honor to ride Rooster.
And one time he was riding, he was over at Murfreesboro at the college, and he said, "You gotta know where the feet are." And he's sitting on my horse. And old Rooster, I think I had a snaffle bit on him at the time. But all of a sudden, Rooster set his right front foot out about this far. And then he moved his left front foot out this far. And then pretty soon he's standing there with both front feet out like this. And Jack brought him back one at a time. Now this is my horse, and I never been able to get him to do that. But Jack was so good at it, shifting his weight and knowing just when to move, that he could move. And then the thing he did always got me. He said, "I'm going to do an apex with old Rooster here." Then he had to explain that the apex goat is one you see standing on top of a barrel. He walked Rooster's back feet right up behind his front feet, till they could have been standing in a 5-gallon bucket. Now, Rooster never moved his front feet. He only moved his back feet up.
It's amazing.
The more I'd work with Jack on things like that, and I never could do them myself on my horse, you know, and it just amazed me what he needed. And I've tried to do it with other people. Pay attention to where the horse's feet are. Know how his feet move. And like I said, for 25 years, I could watch my mares and horses and my Bermuda horses out in the pasture, watching them move. Jack always told me when he's doing clinics, the one question he got, "My horse don't know how to do a flying lead change. How can I get my horse to do a flying lead change?" And Jack said, of all the things that we're trying to teach, spins, slides, side passes, he's doing flying lead changes when he's 2 hours old. You know, he knows how to do a flying lead change. And we talked about it a lot. How do you get the horse to do a flying lead change? Well, first you got to know a horse changes leads behind before it changes leads in front. I've thought about it, and I've had that same question at a lot of clinics. And I think I still got it here. A picture of Secretariat. See if I can find this dude.
I may know that image.
Yeah, here it is. You see? Whoops. I punched something I shouldn't have.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. So while Sam is finding this, I just want to say that depending on the experience level that you've had with horses, just know that you can come back to this, because what Sam is sharing here is golden. And what I would like to add is this. I feel like these things that you're asking your horse to do that Sam was just describing, slow and easy is always the answer. Asking subtly, not coming on so strong and not rushing, just softening your own body and slowly asking and waiting, letting the horse process and get there. So I know you have that feel. I've watched you do it. That's what I see in you. So I think sometimes the gap between someone who just executes so easily and someone who doesn't is that they get their excitatory responses so much, and their muscle spindle fibers get so excited, and so they want to get it right, and so they're going to be tense and a little bit tough when they ask, and a little bit abrupt because of the muscle spindle fibers.
Well,
and so that just comes with experience. So
one thing about
there you go.
flying lead changes, there's only one point in a stride that a horse can do a flying lead change.
Okay,
That's
you
in
want to show
suspension.
Secretariat.
This
All
is for
right.
you and Marty.
Okay, so viewers, I'll describe what we're seeing here.
This horse is this is Secretariat. This is just an oil painting of Secretariat. He's in the left-hand lead right now, okay? That's his left front foot, vertical underneath him. Look at the both hind feet.
Oh yeah, so there's
Okay,
one.
the next point
one
of
leg,
that
yeah.
stride is suspension,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
If I reach back here and I move this horse's hip to the right, there's nothing he can do to thing, because both hind feet's in the air. It's like pushing air over.
Yeah.
So when he comes down, he's going to be in the right-hand lead instead of the left-hand lead. But everybody wants to move their hip, and they got both feet in the ground. They can't move them, won't move them. But you catch him at that point in the stride,
So
when the lead foot is right under your stirrup, you take your leg back and move your hip over. He can't refuse, because both hind feet are, that lead
will you
foot
say
becomes
that
a
again
pivot.
for those listening so they can mentally rehearse it? Say it again, please, what you just said about what you do in your body in that moment.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm not going to do anything. gonna move my leg back about my back cinch, and just move his hip over 2 inches.
And then
Period.
there you go.
But he'll come down in the opposite lead at that time. And because he's suspended, and his lead foot and left foot in that point, it's almost like a pivot point. The whole horse is turning on that
On
pivot.
that lead foot.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Wow.
it's easy. It's the way he does it if he was doing it on his own.
Right.
He's gonna change. Years ago, and I've thought about this a lot, years ago, the old timers, they want to do flying lead changes on horses, they jump them over a log and change him while he's going over the log because he's in suspension. It's easy to change him when he's in the air. But when you break it down to it and there's no log out here, how am I going to get him to change? I've got to know where his feet are. And Jack and I talked about this, gosh, I don't know how many times. About that. I've even watched, I was at Martha Josie's one time, helping her with the barrel horses, and one of them kept knocking the barrel down, and I watched her, and this mare was going around the barrel like a motorboat. In other words, and then hitting the barrel. And I talked to Martha and R.E. about it. I said, you know, when you bend that horse's head around to go around that barrel, it locks the inside front foot in the ground every time. I mean, it's not, he don't want to do it, but it's physical. You can't raise your shoulder if your head's turned. So you pull him around to the barrel, he locks his foot in the ground, and the whole rear end comes loose. So you got a motorboat turn. And watching barrel racing, one girl now that's been world champion 2 or 3 times, Haley Kinsel's got this mare she calls Sister. Watch that mare run. She never, ever looks into the barrel. That mare's always got her head to the outside, floating around there. And she digs out there with both hind feet. That's the reason she's 2 or 3 times world champion, because this mare never slides around the corner. She did. But you take somebody right in, hit that inside rein, as soon as they do it, and that foot hits the ground, back end comes loose, and they're struggling to get around it. And little things like that make all the difference whether you're going to be in the winning circle or not. We had a mare at the ranch called Peppermint Twist at Buster Welch. Tied smart little Lena at the Derby with Peppermint Twist. And awesome mare. But Peppermint was really short-necked. So you stop Peppy on a cow, she'd look off. But boy, if that cow moved, she was 180 degrees the other way. I mean, just whop. And we were down at Carrizo Springs to a master's cutting one time. And Buster was riding Peppermint. Somebody said, Buster, you need to get that mare to look in. Them cows. Buster said, when you beat me, I'll get her to look in.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. But when you think about it, this mare was so short-cut. With what she did when she moved her head off, she opened up that front leg, and that was the first thing that was going to move.
Right.
And as soon as that leg moved, her head would come around, and she'd leave blisters on your hands hanging on that saddle horn. She turned as hard as any horse I ever rode.
Yeah, because she knew how she could.
Yeah,
She
but
could,
most
yeah.
people don't think about
Right.
the physical part of the horse, where his head needs to be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to me, that mare taught me a lot about, hey, you don't want to lock that front end down, you know, leave
Right.
it loose, but you got to move the head over this way to move the front end that way. And but she wouldn't ever look into the cow. You know, there's so many things that I've seen. Been to a lot of cuttings. You know, go to cutting fraternity, and probably 70% of the horses in the cutting fraternity run off on the end. You know, and the cow's running to the wall, and the horse's head comes up, and they lose. And Buster Welch always said, "You take care of the ends, the middle will take care of itself." You know, and he's right. And I thought about that. Of course, up there on the ranch, I was by myself. And I built a 200-foot round pen out there to play in. I put one cow in the round pen with a 2-year-old. And I'd follow that cow around and follow it and maybe trot around behind it. The cow would stop. Of course, the colt didn't stop. The cow would stop. He'd wander on by. Well, I'd just kick him in the gear, and we'd go to the other side of that 200-foot round pen, and we'd do turnarounds, we'd do rollbacks, we'd do back up. We really worked. Then we went over and rested next to the cow. And you do that 3 or 4 days, and all of a sudden this colt is velcroed to whatever cow you got in there. because he knows if I get away, I gotta work.
Uh-huh.
As long as I stay over here, I don't have to work that hard. And that cow's moving, he, no, don't go anywhere, and the colt's working really hard to get the cow to stop again. And it was just reverse psychology, I guess you'd call it, but it always made sense to me, like trailer loading. Why lead a horse up to a trailer, he's got his front feet in, now you're beating him on the butt. You know, probably ain't gonna wanna put his head in there again. But if I make him work out here, he's gonna, I ain't gonna hide in that place over there, and he'll go right by you, go getting in the trailer, you know. But people can't think about they don't think the horse is that smart to figure that stuff out. And if they did, and just, Bob Loomis always had a great saying about horses. You gotta understand form to function. Form to function. What form does this horse have to be in to do a sliding stop or a rollback or whatever? That was his big deal. To form to function, right?
Yeah, and I completely agree. I was thinking, you know, so in yoga therapy, we have a term that you hear it more in yoga therapy. It's called just biomechanics. And what I see that good horsemen have in common is they don't use the word biomechanics necessarily, but they naturally use their body when they're on that horse to set that horse up to have great biomechanics. So when I watch that, it feels really good to me because I can see that that's what you guys are doing. Now, when other people are, you know, they're coming to learn from you, they may not have good enough control of their own bodies to execute, to understand the biomechanics. But I think a lot of horse people do it through feel, like a good horseman, they just have it in feel, but they may not, they wouldn't even necessarily say, oh, well, I have good biomechanics and I'm setting the horse up. I notice the way they'll ask a rider to ask for something, what they're doing is they're setting the horse up to have good biomechanics. I've seen you do it, and it's that ease and helping the horse find that within themselves, and then it looks so soft and natural, and you're not causing any discomfort for that horse or any pain for that horse. And so somebody else, if they don't know how to set a horse up to have good biomechanics, then it's kind of it looks like a train wreck. Or even if you can fake it, eventually there's going to be some injury, something that's going to come out of that from a habituation or compensation because the horse is just having to make do with the door or the window you're opening for them to go into that.
I think that's what we said earlier, you know, the confirmation that complements an event.
Yes, absolutely.
You're kind of getting the biomechanics in without you having to put any work to it because it's easy for a horse.
Yeah.
I was in Germany and I was riding dressage horses over there in Germany. And we were visiting one day at lunch and I told them people, I said, you know, I can never watch you ride a horse, but I can get on your horse and tell you whether you're left-handed or right-handed. Oh, no, you can't. I bet I can. So we got 2 or 3 horses in the arena, and nobody was riding. And all had them dressage saddles on them and snaffle bits. And I said, I'm going to ride your horse, and I'll tell you whether you're left-handed or right-handed. Okay. So I ride it around, and I bend the horse to the right, and I bend him to the left, bend him to the right, bend him to the left. I told this lady, I said, you're right-handed. She said, how can you tell? I said, because your right hand is non-dominant. I mean, it's dominant. Your left hand is not. So when you get ready to turn this horse to the left, you have to really get everything squared away before you take hold of that rein. All the time you're messing with that rein and getting all squared, the horse's ear comes around, we're gonna go this way. And if you're not paying attention, you just reach and grab that rein. Well, it's surprise, and the horse braces for that quick. Otherwise, you don't think about it, you just lead him around. So there's no surprise. But that just getting hold of that left rein, all of a sudden, and he braces for just a split second, you'll feel it. And then he'll turn loose and come on around. But your dominant hand, you don't think about it. You just pick the rein up and go this way. So the horse is actually softer that way than he is the other way, even though you're not left-handed, so you're thinking about it. And I got on a horse at a clinic one time with Jack, and he was deaf. The guy said, I can't get him to bend. Jack made me get on him. I had a halter on him. I picked up the thing, and the horse, whoop! Guy said, how'd you get him to do that? Jack said, well, just pressure and release. He said, yeah, but when did he release the horse? He said, Sam released it when the ear turned towards his hand. Because he had the brain going in the direction he wanted that head to go.
Yeah.
So I picked it up again, the guy watched that ear turn, I turned it loose and I picked it up again. It's just a matter of giving and take, but like Jack said, the brain is gonna tell the head where to go. If I ain't got the brain going, then the head isn't gonna go. And same way with the feet, you know. I've gotta get it up here to get it down there. And sometimes we don't think about that. I had a Doc Oak gelding out there at the ranch, a little reining horse. I love this little guy. He'd slide, boy, he was a pretty stopper, roll back, slope circles, change lead. And Dick Pieper came down there, and Dick was president of the Reining Horse Association. And he was looking at some 2-year-old prospects, and I thought, yeah, Dick's here, I'm gonna show him a Doc Oak coat off. I'm out on the slide track, and Jack's standing over, or Dick's standing over watching. I run this colt down in that slide track. Said, whoa, took hold of it. He jabbed both front feet in the ground and like to pitch me right over his head. I rolled him over, we went the other way, did the same thing. I did that about 3 or 4 times. Finally, I rode over where Dick was standing. I said, I don't know what's the matter with him, Dick. I said, he's been stopping really good. And now he's bracy. Dick said, I know what's the matter with him. I said, what? He said, out here by yourself, you're just loping him down through there, letting him stop, right? I said, yeah. He said, I'm standing here watching him, you're trying to make him stop. I said, try it again. Just forget I'm here and let him stop. So I loped him down through there, set my butt down the saddle, took my legs off, stayed road, and he slid about 15 feet, you know, before I was putting on the brakes before I took my foot off the gas, basically,
Yes.
you know.
That's an example of when we want to get it right, you know, it's like, oh, he's here, we want to get it right. So those muscle spindle fibers get very excited. When they do, they're really tight, and they're ready for anything. And it's not a good motor plan. A lot of times it's just, you'll recruit all different muscles at the same time, things like that. It makes it really awkward. So that's when somebody's trying to learn something, they don't have a good motor plan yet. And like we were talking about earlier, I think with Marty, you said something about, you're like, well, some people you can work with them, and it's more of a challenge, right, for them to understand or to be able to do that with their bodies. That's, it's how to help them find a motor plan, ideally, maybe even when they're not even on the horse. And then, because it takes a few things out of the equation, because oftentimes people are so locked up in their pelvis, for example, they can't allow their body to move with their horse. And that gets stored in the cerebellum, it gets stored in their low brain, they don't have control over it. So you've got to find a way to help them find neutral, and then find voluntary direction both ways. And the same can happen for a horse. Like if you've got a horse that's lost their ability to cross over, that is compensation and adaptation, and it gets stored in their low brain. So you can help them on the ground, which I know you can do it under saddle, right? You can help them on the ground, that's what I do. I help them on the ground to release all those opposing muscle groups so that they're not having to fight to try to get it. So, because they can force it, but it doesn't mean it's good for their joints or anything about how they feel or anything about how they move. It's more ideal if we can help them find good voluntary control again, release any habituations. Then, if you want them to zig, they can zig, and they can zag. They can do both really easily and really well because they're not having a war against opposing muscle groups internally that's being governed by the brain. So it's like we make a recording, and then there it is, that's the recording, right? Well, it's not how we'd really say it in a somatic language, but I think for people who are listening who are not in that field, it's a good way to at least bridge the gap there so that people can start to understand it. So we made a recording, that's what it is, it's a recording. So that's kind of how that pattern gets set in the low brain, and it's all they've got to work with sometimes, unless they've got somebody that can really, really help them differentiate. And so that's what I do through somatic education, but it's what a good horseman can do. If they can get on there and be neutral enough, they can help that. I watch them help a horse differentiate. I've seen it. It's just different terms, and that's what I was telling a friend of mine who asked a question, and I'm glad this came about because it's reminding me of her question, a horsewoman in New York. But I said, I'm going to try to marry some of this language between how you would say it or how Marty would say it and how we would say it somatically so that we can start to bridge some of this because, I want horses to have a better life. I want people to have a better life. And so if you're walking around with habituations that's causing stiffness and pain, and then you're being asked to execute movements that you don't have a good motor plan for, it's not going to end well. It's just not. And so, so I want to, help bridge this for the person and for the horse, especially because, let's be, the horse, they're walking around, with bits in their mouth. Humans are walking around with, other challenges, right? It's not necessarily that challenge, right? It's that, I remember telling a class one time, I was like, humans have halters too. It's usually just led by corporations. So,
I don't think people really understand how sensitive and aware the horse is.
I agree.
I've done it at clinics. I've done it with the police officers up in Nashville on those police horses.
Mm-hmm.
Just drop your reins, sit on your horse, relax, take your hands out like this and squeeze your fist. So they do that, horse walks off. And I didn't do nothing. I said,
Yes,
"Yeah,
they
you
did.
When you squeeze your fist like this, you tighten your adductor muscle.
Absolutely.
And you've already taught the horse, when I squeeze, you go someplace.
That's right.
And when you squeeze your fist and your adductor muscles tighten, I gotta go.
That's right.
You know?
See, that's a great example of unconscious and involuntary with the adductor muscles. So they don't know they're doing it, and
No, they
there's so
don't.
much of this happening. So it's really beautiful. I was like, how can we marry this conversation, because there's a gap there,
That's the reason somebody riding, they want to stop the horse. It's like I was doing that Doc Oco. Grab the reins and pull on it. Well, all the time I'm pulling on it,
You're telling him
I'm
to go.
bashing on the brakes with one foot and the gas pedal with the other one.
Absolutely.
And
I can see it and feel it. Yeah.
We don't realize, I gotta sit down. Dad was one that said, what you need to do is drive your tailbone down in the horse's spine.
That makes sense.
And that'll get him to stop. And if your saddle is right, when you're sitting, your tailbone should be right over the 14th thoracic vertebrae, period. Count 4 ribs over, forward up the spine, that's the 14th. That's the highest point in that horse's back. That's where your tailbone needs to be. And when you meet that and push it down in there, your horse is gonna stop. It is. But you can't be pulling on his face at the same time and squeezing with your legs. And people just can't seem to ever compliment it. I saw one little girl up in Missouri complaining about this horse running off, running through the stops, and she had all these little spurs that looked like little skill saw blades, tight. And I watched her ride, and she'd pull on that horse and turn her toes out,
Wow.
jab him those spurs in his rib cage, and couldn't understand why I was running off. So I made her take the spurs off, and I said, now just stick your feet out like this and holler, whoa. And she did, and he liked to send her right over the front end, too, because he was wanting to stop. But she was jabbing. I thought, if I could have ever turned my toes out like that, riding bulls, I never would have got bucked off, But she didn't realize what was going on from her butt down to their feet.
Yeah.
She was thinking about stopping and not holding and gripping. And so many times we blame the horse for what's going on. They think, hey, I just did what I was told.
Well, that's why I wanted to have these conversations. What you just said there, so many times people do blame their horses for what's going on. And that's, I don't think that's fair to the horse to,
One of the hardest lessons I ever learned was learning what a narcissist was.
A narcissist? Yeah.
And it cost me everything.
But it's
I was blamed for everything in the world, And I think most of the people riding horses have a little bit of narcissism in them. They're not gonna take the blame for nothing. If it ain't going right, it's that dumb horse, it's the dumb trainer, it's the bloodline, something. But there ain't nothing I'm doing, So I think deep down, most people that mess with horses are a little bit narcissistic. That is just the way you are, it's a painful lesson for me to learn, I know, a costly lesson. But, you can't, what did I do wrong? How come everything I'm doing is wrong?
Yeah, it's, that, I think that's become really, really a popular topic for sure, that, that word and that whole scale of that. And I feel like for me personally regarding that, and I know for those of you who are listening and watching, I feel like if I can't be happy and just be myself, then that stimulus in the environment, for some reason, it's just not right for me. So whatever the stimulus is, that person in this case, right? So if I can't just be myself and just be in my natural way, for whatever reason, it's just not a good fit. And so I'd even thought today about the question about to help people who maybe they're looking for a horse and, you know, depending on their knowledge level or their skill set, is there something that you can think of to share with people that would help them know how to know whether or not a horse is a good fit for them? What are your thoughts on that?
The worst thing I've ever heard is people say, I want to buy a 2-year-old for my
Get
baby, my
on
little
together.
boy, so they grow up together.
Yeah.
Oh, good, we got 2 dummies in the same classroom, you know.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna have to be a teacher.
Yep, so first off, you need an experienced horse if you've
Yeah.
got an inexperienced rider, or you need an experienced rider if you've got an inexperienced horse. So what else would you say?
I think, you know, I would say, some people want a $35,000 horse. No, you need a $1,000 horse and $34,000 worth of lessons, you know, in order to get
Either
them on
way,
with it.
yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
you can take the greatest horse, and I've had the opportunity to ride some really, really good horses.
Yes, you have, yeah.
And I've messed them up, you know, because.
Well, that lets me know you're not a narcissist. I
Well,
messed them up.
It's just,
I did it.
You know, like a cutting horse. I mean, you're riding a really good cutting horse, and all of a sudden you're in the herd back here, and like Buster Welch would say, "Get your damn leg off of him." You know, I didn't realize I was pushing the horse into the herd because they're so feely and so sensitive. And his greatest saying was, "Push, push." You heard him saying that all the time. Push, push. He meant push on the saddle horse. Push on the saddle horse. Get your butt back down in the saddle because you're getting up like this, you know, and you're in the horse's way all the time, and you don't realize that. And I've had people put, here's a 50-pound sack of feed. You put it on your shoulders, and I'm going to move it over here just a little bit. What's that going to do to you? Well, you're going to drift off this way. And move it back over this way. You drift off. Let's get it centered right here in the middle. Then you can go straight. Well, people are riding along, you know. Even one thing I always hated watching, even in the movie, somebody loping along there and this arm hanging down here like it's dead. Yeah.
A lot of people are taught
Keep
to do that.
drifting the horse because the horse all of a sudden is starting to go this way.
Yeah.
I love to watch movies with Ben Johnson riding a horse. He just sits there, both hands right in front of him all the time. Doesn't necessarily have all the rein of both of them, but this is where his hands are. This is the way my dad rode.
Yeah.
Always. He was never cockeyed. I know Freckles Brown, when I was riding bulls, told me one time, he said, what you need to do, keep your elbow down and keep your shoulders square with the bull shoulders. When they turn, you turn. When you turn. And it made so much difference, you know. But when people are riding, they never think about just that one little thing. If I'm too heavy in the hip over here, that's the reason my horse is going over there, you know. I know a lady, Sarah Cook, bought a full brother to Rooster, and I'd actually finished him as a reining horse, and boy, he'd spent a hole in the ground, and she bought him, and she called me and said, you know, old bro's not, he won't lope straight, he keeps drifting. So I went up there, she lives up at Lever's Fork, I rode old bro around, he roped her just straight as could be. And put Sarah back on him, and I got to looking at one stirrup higher than another, you know. I measured him, everything was right. Then she got to talking to me, and she reached in her back pocket and pulled out one of the packages of Kleenex, blow her nose. And I said, throw that package of Kleenex away and lope your horse again. So she did. Old bro, he was so feely that the difference on her rear end of that package of Kleenex made him want to go off this way. People don't realize how feely a horse is. Just that little bit of shifting your weight, you know. I know Jack has done a lot of them. Just turn and look, and your horse goes off this way. You know, turn and look, and he goes off this way. But he can feel when you turn your head. All of a sudden, this leg's a little tighter, and this leg's a little looser, and you're shifting your weight, and he's compensating for it. And that's the reason I think most people are narcissistic. Oh, he won't turn. Well, get out of his road. You know, he's going exactly where you told him to go. He's doing exactly what you told him to do.
Let's just say they're unaware, not necessarily narcissistic. Some people are unaware. I'm not saying that there's not a certain percentage of the population
I agree. They are
that fits
unaware.
the bill.
But,
It's just that maybe we just say some are just unaware, and I'll just for fairness, every person has levels where they're unaware, right? You know, so you know what I mean. Just like the Kleenex, she didn't know it was the Kleenex. That's just unaware, right?
I'd like to do a clinic sometime and somebody comes and say, what am I doing wrong? Yeah. That'd be what I'd really like to hear
Yeah.
from somebody at a clinic.
Let's talk about this for a minute, Sam. When people start first grade, the worst thing, you get punished, you're labeled, all these things if you don't get it right. So that performative, tendency, you may have even been taught it before you even got to first grade, but certainly in the school systems, that's one of the first things that happens is we're told, you've got to be perfect, or at least be at the top, right? If not perfect, you better be at the top. So nobody's been trained to say, help me out here. I don't have a clue right now in this moment. We're not supposed to do that. So they're not going to come there to you at 30, 40, 50 years old and ask that question. They're already trained not to do that, right? Don't hold your cards close. Hold your cards close. Don't,
I kind of
So-
grew up being shipped around from one family to another. And I remember when I was in school, whatever time I happened to be living with my mother, they bring a homework report card. Say I had a B. The one word I hated to hear from her, that's very good, but.
yeah.
Yeah, it could have been a B plus. It was
Yeah,
always
yeah.
a but at
Yeah.
the end of every compliment. And I think sometimes we do that with the horses.
I
That was
agree,
pretty
yeah.
good horse, but we could do a lot better, yeah.
Yes. So I was, like video format and everybody watching video and learning, and it is great because it can create a lot of community and things like that. People can learn just through your stories. I feel like people who have a discerning mind can pick up on so much for themselves and their horses and what they're doing and not doing just through the stories you're sharing. And when you said that about that's good, but I thought that right when you said it, I was like, yeah, I think that happens with the horses too. So I would even ask people, just from a somatic perspective, I would ask them to ask their horse for something that they know is really easy for their horse, just to start to create a different kind of relationship that they don't have yet, to ask for something that's really easy first, and then ask for something that they know that's more challenging or new, and then go back again to something that's easy. And it just sets the horse up to be, in my mind, to be in a softer place. No, it's just in my knowing, to be in a softer place for the horse, for their experience of how they feel with their relationship with you. Even if they don't know anything about the actual work I'm doing, it is a way to convey it, to start to set them up to have that experience for the horse.
Yeah,
And I know
it's-
you do, you do that.
Like I said, let my colt go over next to a cow and rest there instead of being over there working.
Yes, so it's,
And sometimes I'd be riding 20 colts a day. And out of that 20, let's just say 10 of them, they were cranky, bronky, whatever. And then 10 of them were really nice colts. And so I get in there, and first thing in the morning, I want to ride these 10 bronky ones while I'm fresh, I want to jump and kick. So I'd ride them, and I'd ask them to do one thing, like, let's just turn over here. They did it. I get all hugged. Oh, good boy, good boy. Maybe I'm on this colt 5 minutes, and I'm telling the Mexican, unsaddle him, I get another one.
yeah.
And he'd do the same thing, and I'd get off of him. And then of an afternoon, after lunch, I'd have my good horses, we're spinning and sliding. I got to noticing after about 30 days, my good horses were getting worse, and my bronky horses were getting better.
That's gold. Can we stop there? And we're just going to stop that because just for the link to the video. So thank you all for watching. This is Sam Powell. I'm Gloria Hester. Thank you, Marty Murdoch and Pam Flynn. Thank you for watching.